And then the other one that has been making hella numbers since yesterday is the new Ruxin video, which is, I think it's fitting that we talk about it a little bit. I think it's very fitting because we've talked about this literally yesterday before this video came out. We've touched on this topic during the Legendary Duelist opening that we did, of like, a lot of people have, a lot of vendors specifically have been complaining about how bad product has been for them recently, and Ruxin has had a has a take on that. So let's just watch that really quick and talk about it.
Yu-Gi-Oh has a major problem.
Monka S.
And no, I'm not, this isn't like just clickbait, because obviously, you know, there's a little bit of going on with the thumbnail and everything, but I think this is pretty serious. What is this major problem, you ask? I got my glasses on today because this is a studious type of video. There's going to be some numbers in here. There's going to be some thinking in here. It's not just opening and getting hyped, so I had to put the glasses on. Are people quitting the game? Are collectors tired of collecting high rarity cards and putting together binders? Maybe people have finally gotten tired of opening packs? No, it's none of those things. The problem is Konami is printing too many Yu-Gi-Oh cards. How is that possible? You can never have too many Yu-Gi-Oh cards.
No. I think I agree with this. I've been noticing that too recently, of like literally every single week or two we're talking about new cards, new sets coming out, like opening stuff up on stream. It's like it's a very frequent thing that just new sets gets released, and I can imagine that being a problem from a couple different perspectives, like from a beginner perspective, or like people that don't play as frequently as I do, for example, because I mean, I'm in contact with this stuff every single day. For me, it's not a problem if they release a lot of cards, because I have the time, because it's literally my job. I have the time to look into those cards, to get used to them, to test with them, to read them, all that stuff. But I can imagine a lot of other people that don't have that time, right? That don't have the time to just keep up with what's happening, right? And I think we have probably at least one new product every month, if not even more than that, right? So
yeah,
it's
you can.
a lot.
Konami has always put out a ton of new sets, but I think we're actually reaching a tipping point. I started thinking about this problem after the release of the most recent set, Legendary Duelist Soul Burning Volcano. I, as a Yu-Gi-Oh content creator, barely realized when this set was releasing. It snuck up on me like the end of a streaming service free trial. Bam! You owe 20 bucks and you didn't even finish that show you were watching. Crap. I went on about opening this set just like I do any new release, posting 3 videos, and I was going to do the usual live stream opening like I normally do, looking for that rarest card. But I immediately noticed a significant disinterest in the set. No one was watching the first opening I posted, which are usually some of the best on the channel. Secondly, a lot of the comments talking about the set were either negative or disinterested. Not particularly excited for this one, but appreciate the love for older archetypes. I'd like to see future Legendary Duelists that feature a Ghost, Obelisk, or Slifer. Maybe one day we'll get that. Winged Dragon Raw, you're the only Ghost rare for some reason. I hate this set. I've never in my life opened 20 packs and pulled one super rare. Literally was the worst opening I've ever done. I'm not gonna lie, the Legendary Duelist sets don't excite me too much, but instead of getting a box, I'll get a few packs at the store and
I mean, those are valid concerns. I've been getting the same sentiment about this particular set pretty much from almost anywhere.
see what happens. Way to support your locals, man. Seeing all of this, I decided to check the price of the box. Like, what's the going rate for this thing? And I had a bad feeling because Legendary Duelists usually do not do too well in terms of price, which we're gonna get to. Currently, it sits at about $35 per box, a ridiculously low amount.
That is this set's problem more than a Yu-Gi-Oh product issue. I've been seeing that at least happening a bunch of times, right? I don't think this is the only set this year that people have been complaining about, right? People are complaining about Duelist Nexus. At least when I say people, I mean vendors, right? When I mean vendors are complaining about these sets, and you might think, oh, does that really matter? Because I mean, 99.9% of the community are not vendors, and everyone else really likes it when a set like Duelist Nexus comes out, and a lot of the cards in the set are really, really cheap because, you know, the set is not as good, the value in the set is just not really there. So if you're looking to pick up just a couple cards from Duelist Nexus, you don't have to spend much if you're the kind of person to buy the cards, like buy the single cards, right? If you're the type of person to go on Card Market or TCG Player, if you're from NA, and you just buy the new cards you want from the set as singles, you're probably pretty happy about stuff like Duelist Nexus or even the Legendary Duelist set, you know? Like, you don't have to care that the set is not really that much value when you open it because you're not opening it, right? But the problem with that is that if a set is not like worth to open, right? If a set is too bad to be worthwhile opening, the singles are not really going to get in circulation, right? The only reason why we can purchase singles on release date is because there's a lot of vendors out there that rip open cases and cases of new sets, right? And put the singles up on Card Market, on TCG Player. That's the only reason why on the date of a release of a set, you can go there and buy whatever card you want, right? And if that process of vendors opening up the set is not worth it in the long term, it's going to be a problem because people are not going to do it, right? People are not going to open up sets if it's not worth it.
For a brand new set that released less than a month ago. But this isn't unique for the Legendary Duelist sets. In 2021, Konami released Legendary Duelist Synchro Storm. This set had a similar trajectory in price, currently sitting at about $39 per box. Oh, but Legendary Duelist Duels from the Deep released in 2022 must have been better, right? How about way worse? This box is a whopping $25 per box. An entire box of 36 packs for $25. That is insane. But is this just a Legendary Duelist set issue? Is the composition of those sets messed up and wrong and that's just making them bad? Yes, yes, there is, but it's not the only set that's struggling. While they are the absolute worst offenders of the last few years, nearly every Yu-Gi-Oh set released this year is losing value from its release. And here's the big issue.
And that's the thing, right? Because one thing I said yesterday is like, I think it's fine if there are some sets that are worse than others, right? As a vendor, I feel like you're kind of signing up for this kind of thing where sometimes you have really, really good sets like Power of the Elements or the Megatins or whatever, where you will be making a lot of money from them. Like that's how it is, right? As a vendor, you'll make a lot of money from some sets and you will lose a little bit of money or maybe break even on other sets, right? That is what happens, right? But when there is too many of the one kind, like I think there needs to be a balance, right? And I think recently there's just been too many bad sets in comparison to the good set, right?
I was alluding to. While I was pondering making this video, I saw a post on Instagram by Beckett Castle TCG, which seems to be a TCG hobby store of some kind. I don't follow them, but someone shared their post and it piqued my interest. They posted a product line update with 3 different TCG updates. One of them referred to Yu-Gi-Oh! They wrote, and I quote, "We have made the unfortunate decision to discontinue carrying Yu-Gi-Oh! In our opinion, the market rates for boxes at release are just absurd, and we're losing thousands per set."
And this can't be. Right? This can't be. This is a local game store that is deciding to discontinue one of the top 3 trading card games like out there, right? That should just not be the case. I think we can all agree on that, right? Like one of the top 3 trading card games out there should not be in a situation where game stores are deciding to not carry it anymore because the boxes are just losing them too much money, right? There's no way that should be the case.
We have our current product in clearance on our website with extreme below cost discounts. For example, Soul Burning Volcano released this past Friday. It's literally been a week, guys. Our average cost is $48. I assume that means per box. They didn't say that. They're selling on TCG for $35. Fees and shipping are another 30% of that. I think 30% is a little high, but we're going to do the numbers after this. Duelist Nexus had an average cost of $61 and are selling for $53 before fees and shipping. This is not sustainable. We will carry Yu-Gi-Oh! Through the 25th anniversary Rarity Collection on November 3rd, but that will be our last set. Our apologies to our Yu-Gi-Oh! Fans. Come clear out our clearance. Now, obviously, that is an extremely sad thing to read, that a hobby store that is literally the blood, sweat, and tears of Yu-Gi-Oh! I mean, that's where you go to play. That's where you go to find your product at your local place. You see your friends there. You, experience all the new decks and everything before you go to like a YCS and stuff like that. And they're literally unable to buy and sell the product because it's too expensive. They claim to literally be losing thousands of dollars per release. It depends on how many cases they're buying and everything, but they're losing hundreds to thousands of dollars. This is just a bad thing for Yu-Gi-Oh! In general. If these hobby stores, who are literally the most passionate people in the world about Yu-Gi-Oh! And other TCGs, can't afford to buy and sell the cards, who is gonna sell them? I know a lot of people think stores do not buy for as much as I buy. Like, I buy a box for 60, stores buy them for 30. That is not true. Distributors do not.
The margin is not that big.
Sell boxes for $30. They sell them for what they said was $48 on average for Legendary Duelist. We're going to estimate $45 on the Legendary Duelist. We're going to do $55 on core sets, which they said was like 61, I think, which is probably closer to reality, but we're gonna do 55 just to give them a little bit of a chance, right? We're gonna see if that at $55 a box, can they make money? We're gonna assume that they're selling on eBay, and there's gonna be eBay fees and then shipping costs. Let me show you just how dire this situation is. First set released this year, Amazing Defenders, selling for $55. First of all, that's how much it costs from Distributor, so we already know we're gonna lose money on this one. After that whopping 13.25% eBay.
So essentially, just to preface this entire problem, just so we're all on the same page, the issue is that Konami is producing sets and they are selling them at a certain price point, and they are setting an MSRP for those sets, right? They are saying, hey, you should charge, I don't know what it is, $4.50 for a pack, and you should charge this much for an entire box, right? And we are basing our prices on the MSRP, right? The price that a vendor pays for a box is slightly below MSRP. I don't know how much exactly, like a couple percent under MSRP is what a vendor pays for a box. That way, they're making just a little bit of money off of distributing the product, right? But the reality is that people are not willing to pay MSRP for the current Yu-Gi-Oh set, right? The current Yu-Gi-Oh product is not worth MSRP, right? People are not willing to pay MSRP price per pack, right? There's no shot. Right? That's the problem. Like the MSRP for a main set booster, I think, is around $4.50 or even $5. They increased it recently, I think. But no one is willing to pay that amount of money for a pack of Duelist Nexus, right? Because the set is not good enough for that. The set does not hold up. There is, of course, people that will buy a pack of Yu-Gi-Oh at a store sometimes, but it's not the majority of their revenue. I don't think comes from selling singular packs at like the store for $4.50 or whatever. Most people will not go about purchasing Yu-Gi-Oh product like that, right? And that is a significant problem, right? Because if the set is not worth what they are charging, right? Konami is charging a price based on a value that they have set, right? They're saying like, hey, our product is worth this much. Just pay us like, I don't know, 10% less and you can resell it and that's cool. But if no one is worth like, if no one is willing to pay that price, then the vendors are kind of screwed because they have to still pay what Konami is telling them to pay, right? And if that doesn't work out, then we have a problem because then no one's going to buy the product in the quantities that we would need for all the cards to be in rotation.
Fee plus 30 cents, you got to add in that 30 cents, and a $5 per box shipping, they're making $42.42. So each box is losing about $12.50. Multiply that by 12 boxes, you end up losing about $150 for a case. And a local store is probably going to be buying at least 10 cases, maybe even more. That's a $1,500 average loss. The second set, one of the best sets of the year, Photon Hypernova. That's got to be making money, right? These are selling for just under $60, a little bit better than Amazing Defenders. With the $8.25 eBay fees plus the $5 shipping, they're netting about $46.75. That's not $55. They're now losing about $8 per box, which is $96 a case, and about $1,000 per 10 cases. Maze of Memories. This set.
So, okay, I'm not sure if using this method is the best one for it though, because like obviously selling on eBay with those kind of fees is very hard to make a profit from, right? I think if that's the case, then the simple answer is just don't go to eBay to sell your boxes, right? Don't purchase product when your plan is to sell them on eBay, right? This is not that realistic. Like I think I guess we can check on like card market where the fees are substantially lower. I think like the card market fees I think are 5%. Yeah, so they're selling for like $50 on card market. Photon Hypernova, $50, which is I think that's about break even for vendors. I don't know exactly how much vendors pay for in Europe in euros. I'm not sure, but yeah, that's roughly break even, right?
which is $96 a case, and about...
However, I will also say, I think some of it is not... I would rather them go at it in a slightly different way. If they want to criticize the product itself, is also you should probably calculate the estimated value of the cards you pull from it, because that's what a lot of vendors also do, is they will open up product to sell the singles, right? And that's usually a better way to do it. So it would probably be better to go ahead and calculate the average value of a box if you open it, right? And then go about it that way.
$1,000 per 10 cases. Maze of Memories. This set surprised me. It's $61 a box. It's actually doing better than Photon Hypernova. Still at a $48 net though, losing $7 per box, $84.
Not every store sells singles. That is true. That is true. Yeah.
Per case and $840 per 10.
It's no matter which way you look at it, it's not looking super great, right? It's like it doesn't. It's what I'm doing right now is nitpicking. I just realized that it's nitpicking, right? Because a set that is worthwhile opening will sell for more money anyway. So like if the average cost of opening up, if the average pulls of opening up a box are really good, then the set is also going to sell for more. It's kind of the two things are related anyways.
Cases. Cyberstorm Access. Now we're really looking poor. $51 a box, $39 net after all the fees and the shipping and everything, losing $16 per box, $192 per case, and nearly $2,000 per 10 cases. Wild Survivors, they're at $50 a box, $38 net, losing about $17 per box, $204 per case, $2K per 10 cases. I think collector rare sets may be cheaper. I'm not totally sure because I don't have a distributor, but I think you might be able to get those at a little bit less, so maybe the losses aren't quite as bad there because they might be like 50 a box, but even then they're still losing money there. Battles of Legend Monsters Revenge, always a banger set. Battles of Legend is a hard carry for stores, $61 per box, so it's the same thing as we saw earlier, about $840 on a 10 case. You're losing about 80.
Right, so it's just every single box you rarely have something that sells for more than 60, and them charging, basically Konami charging 55 bucks for a vendor, then being able to make 60 bucks off of the thing is just not worth it, because they have to pay fees, they have to pay employees, they have to pay rent if they have a store, all that kind of stuff, right? It just doesn't add up, right? There, the gap between what the box costs the vendor and how much money they can make from it, the gap is just not big enough, right?
$4 per case and $7 per box. Now, LOB 25th anniversary, they reprinted the first set ever. It's got to be doing well. And guess what? It is actually doing well. $79 average cost per box.
Okay, that's a good
They're
one.
making about $63.
This is the first actually good one, right?
After fees and shipping, $63.25. Profiting about $8 per box, $96 per case, and $1,000 per 10 cases. That's a banger. It's one of the best sets of the year, and it was just released. But guess what? It was released in July. The first set in the entire year that a store is making money selling on eBay. Oh, but I forgot to mention, you probably had to buy the MRD and SRL and all those with LOB, and let's see how those are doing. MRD is at $58 per box, which is a $45 net, losing...
Because it was a bundle deal usually, right? Most people would probably buy all of them together, and the other ones all go neg, right? So it's not even good as a whole.
Box.
Like the entire thing together is not even good as well. Yeah.
It's 120 per case, 1,200 per 10 cases. There goes all the profits just from Metal Raiders, and I'm sure Pharaoh Servant and Magic Ruler / Spell Ruler are not doing much better. Duelist Nexus, 52 per box. We kind of saw...
That's the thing, right? That's one thing you guys have to understand. I'm not sure how exactly it works because I'm not a vendor, but I have friends that are vendors. You know, I've been sponsored by vendors. From what I've heard, you don't get to pick and choose which sets you want, right? From the distributor. You're kind of being, if you say, hey, I think this set sucks, I'm gonna skip it, I think you're being punished, because then you will just not be allocated as much of future sets, right? It's kind of like the distributors like working with stores that always take a decent amount of product. It's not like you can say, hey, this legendary duelist stuff that you're doing every year, we don't like that, we just never need that, right? And like, if you do that, they will also give you less of all the good sets, right? And also, the other thing is, you need to pre-order this stuff a long time in advance before we even know all the cards that are in there, before we know their rarity distribution, all that kind of stuff, right? They don't know that when they have to order. So it's even worse. Like, you can't even predict if a set is going to be good or not. You just have to say, hey, I'm ordering this much of it.
this one earlier, they said 53 per box, so they went up a little bit more generously for the price.
Don't spoil the whole video. Oh, is that going to be mentioned?
per box
okay,
after fees. Losing 15 a box, 180 per case, 1,800 per 10 cases. And finally, the stinker of them all, the one that really inspired this video, Legendary Duelist Soul Burning Volcano. They only have to pay $45 a box instead of 55 here, so you think that would help. They're 35 per box right now. After fees, it's 25 a box. They're losing $20 per box, $240 per case, and $2,400 per 10 cases. $2,400. That is insane. After seeing that, you might want to say, well, they get to avoid all the shipping fees and everything and the eBay fees because they have a store. They can sell them in store, right? That's true. They can do that, but they're not going to sell nearly the volume most likely. And even if they do, only Photon, Hypernova, Maze of Memories, Battles of Legend, Metal Raiders, and LOB are selling for more than $55. So all those other ones are still losing money even if they have zero fees. And don't forget credit card fees and stuff like that they have to do when people swipe their card in their store. And all those sets besides LOB that are actually profiting are only making $3 to $6 per box. Is that going to cover those credit card fees? Is it going to cover their overhead, like their rent, their employees? No, definitely not. Now, some of you might be thinking, wait, Ruxin, why don't the stores just skip the sets that suck? Like, okay, I see that LOB is going to be a great set. I'm going to buy a bunch of LOB. And that's it. I'm not going to buy anything else. Here's why. First of all, they have customers. They have people in their store that want to buy the new set. So that's an obvious first thing that you probably thought of already. Here's something you might not know. Distributors give an allocation of boxes for each set. So if you want to buy a lot of LOB and you want to buy like 100 cases because you know it's going to be awesome, they might only allocate you 5 cases. And so you only get to buy 5. Man, that sucks. And you know what else sucks is you might be able to buy a lot more for the bad sets because not as many people are buying them. But if you happen to say skip that set, they're not going to allocate you as much on the next good set. So let's say before LOB, you didn't want to buy whatever was before that, like Cyberstorm Access or something, and you bought 0 of that one because you're like, that's a stinker. I don't want that. When they get to LOB and you go for 100 cases, they might give you 2 cases instead of 5 or 10 or whatever it would have been. So stores feel pressure to like follow through with each new set to buy stuff so that they can get the good ones when they show up. Now, I say all of this we've been talking about not to just like say, let's go to our local store, let's get them a tip jar, let's put our entire paycheck in there so that they make some money. That's not what I'm saying this. I just want to bring up the point.
No, I mean, the issue is absolutely not on the customers, right? Of like, you know, if the set is bad, why would people want to pay more than they are currently doing? Why would people spend more money on Soul Burning Volcano? I feel like the issue is with Konami releasing sets at a price that they're just simply not worth it.
That Konami is printing too many sets and they're reprinting too many cards. There are just too many sets to keep up with. Look at this release schedule from the last few months. Wild Survivors, June 2nd release. Battles of Legend, Monsters Revenge, June 23rd release. 5 Legacy box reprints at once. July 14th release. Duelist Nexus, 2 weeks later. July 28th release. Legendary Duelist Soul Burning Volcano, August 11th release. That was back to back to back every 2 weeks. And that first one had 5 releases at once, so just throw that in there. I didn't even mention the OTS release.
Okay, I will say I don't think this is super related to the amount of sets that they're making, right? Because this would even be a problem if they only released 1 set per year, right? If they only released 1 set per year and it sucks ass and vendors are losing money on it, then that's also bad, right? It doesn't matter. If they release a new set every month, but it's always a banger, vendors are not going to complain, right? It doesn't really have anything to do with the volume of sets that they're creating. It's just that too many sets recently have just been not great, right? Too many sets is a problem in other ways, you know, because you will have customers fed up with they don't want to buy, they don't want to spend as much money every single month. They're not willing to spend as much money. It is also an issue from that perspective. So I'm not saying it's a non-issue. I'm just saying it would be less of an issue if the sets would at least be better on average, right?
On July 19th. So, I mean, that's a forgotten thing. There's an OTS set too with more reprints, which honestly, that's probably a good thing because that just gives people access to, you know, higher rarity for playing in tournaments. So that's probably not something we need to be concerned about, but just another thing that's happening. There's so many things coming out in quick succession that players barely have time to like catch up with their decks, play in the meta. I mean, you got to be buying and selling as even a player just to pay for your deck if you don't have like a crazy income because you don't want to pay $2,000 for your deck to play in the next YCS tournament. And collectors like myself barely have time to even attempt to pull the newest Starlights or 25th anniversary cards before a new set drops 25 more of them.
Yeah, collecting seems very weird these days because there's just so much stuff, and I feel like the only way to collect a new set is to just open up a lot or just go out there and buy all the singles like right when it releases, and then you just, I don't know, it feels weird calling that even collecting because all you're doing is just spending a bunch of money every time the set drops just to have it all.
Literally open product for a living, and I can't pull half of these 25th anniversary cards before there's 25 more of them. And don't get me wrong, I love that there's a lot of high rarity cards. I think it's awesome, but if you're just a regular guy buying like one box and you're trying to collect all the cards, pulling them, there's just absolutely no way. And if you're like buying them, that's 25 times like an average cost of $2,500. Like, that is insane. And having so many of them out there kind of like lessens the awesomeness of some of them. Like, we're getting to the point where like X-Tox Hydra is a 25th anniversary card. Like, does that need to be a 25th anniversary? Can we just,
I don't even know what card. What card is that?
just have like 10 bangers or 5 bangers and, you know, call it a day? I personally think Konami needs to scale back the releases and give each set some room to breathe. This will allow cards to find their current place in the meta, whether they're good, they're bad, whether people want to invest in them and actually play the deck for like maybe a month or two instead of 2 weeks. It'll allow high rarity cards to be actually obtained for collectors, and it'll give time for the sets to actually sell for a reasonable price for the local stores. They won't have to be selling at a huge loss for every single set just to move their product, get the cash flow to buy the next product. If Konami were to carefully craft every new set, which I'm sure they are carefully crafting them. I know people at Konami are working hard on these sets. They're trying to make them as good as possible, but if they
yeah, I mean, if anything, like, you'd have to cut at least some amount of slack for Konami US or Konami EU, because they just get thrown all these cards at them from the OCG, right? Like, Konami EU and NA are not directly responsible for the amount of cards that they need to print each year, because a lot of them is designed in the OCG, I think. But like, of course, they still have a lot of stuff to do in terms of pricing, rarity distribution and stuff like that. There's a lot of stuff that they can improve on.
Had an extra like month, or let's say, instead of every like,
yeah,
you know, 3 sets a month or 2 sets a month, we did 1 set a month. They'd have twice as long to work on it, perfect each card that needs to be high rarity, that needs to be low rarity, that needs to be playable, that needs to be like a nice common that actually might be valuable in a couple of months when they release a new set. They just have time to balance everything even better. I think this would help keep local stores alive, which in turn would keep Yu-Gi-Oh alive, which obviously we all want to see for years to come. I hate saying this because I actually do love new releases, and they're great for me because I get to make tons of content out of new releases and some of the best performing content on my channel. But I am afraid that all this awesomeness right now might slowly choke out Yu-Gi-Oh in the long run. Let me know what you think about this problem in the comments. It's a little bit of a different video, but it was something I've been thinking about for the last few days, and I want to know your opinion. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.
I think it's an interesting point to bring up, at least. Like, the thing is, I'm not a vendor. I'm not in the shoes of a local game store. I can only estimate the gravity of the situation, you know. But yeah, I some of the stuff that he raised as a concern did make sense in my eyes. Like, I feel like that those were valid concerns for the most part, I feel like.